we're glad you're here today. You may have some questions about Easter. You're not alone.
Experts are here. They have lots of opinions, so good luck with that.
All right, come on in. Why are we laughing? How are y'all? Good. You know what we're talking about today?
Easter!
Easter, that's right. So what do we celebrate on Easter?
Parties.
Parties. Yes, it's a big party. Ben, tell me why we have such a big party on Easter.
Because it's Jesus' birthday.
Is it?
Yes.
Can y'all draw me a picture of the Easter story?
This is Jesus.
This is Jesus. Leo, that is awesome. Has less hair than I would have imagined, but oh, that's great. What?
It's Jesus at the stable.
Jesus is at Staples, picking up some office supplies. Iris, when you think of Jesus, what animal comes to mind?
A wolf. A donkey. A horse.
Oh, a horse.
I love horses. Giraffe, probably.
A giraffe. Have you ever thought about Jesus being a lamb?
Yes.
Yes. What happened after he died on the cross?
He got in the tomb.
Ben, what happened when Jesus went in the tomb?
He moved the stone.
And he came out of the tomb. Gracie, what do you think Jesus would have said when he came out of the tomb?
Thank you so much for getting me out of the tomb.
If you had a friend who didn't know anything about Jesus, what's the first thing you would tell them?
I want to be kind to you.
I want to be kind to you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful thing to say. And then she's out. She's done. Morgan, tell me about the Easter story.
The bunny brings a Easter basket to everyone.
But somebody else brought something to everyone. Who was that?
About Santa.
I have failed as a parent. Whose shoe is this? Why? Put your shoe on. Your feet stink. Well, this went really well. No matter what it took for you to get here today, glad you're here. Happy Easter.
Hey there, welcome to Southview Online. My name is Brittany and I serve as the online campus director. Thank you so much for joining us today as we celebrate the greatest event in history, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Before we get started, here are a few things you should know. First, we want you to know that we are so happy you're here. Whether you're new to church or have been part of one for a while, we're thankful you've chosen to spend some time with us today. For us, church is so much more than just a weekend experience, and we believe that there's a perfect place for you here. To get connected, head on over to southview.org/connect. If you're looking for kids' Easter content, we've got you covered. Our kids' Easter experience is available right now at southview.org/family-videos. Head on over and check it out. It's now time to hear from Pastor William, and I'll see you back here after the message.
When I was a kid, I got a Bible. This one, in fact. My parents took my brother and I to church, and we grew up hearing the stories from the Bible. Back then, there weren't so many versions. All I had was the King James Version, which some of you might be familiar with. Until I was in middle school and high school, when this new version, the New International Version, the NIV, began to be popular. So for me, the Bible was always really hard to understand. It sounded a lot like Shakespeare, which I didn't really enjoy all that much. As a kid, I heard a lot of the stories in the Bible, but I heard the kids' version of those stories. And that's normal. I mean, you want to contextualize based on your audience, right? So they were kid versions, kind of simplified, kind of watered down. I mean, you don't really want to tell preschool and elementary kids all about David committing adultery with Bathsheba, right? Or go into great depth and detail on the animal sacrifices in the law of Moses. As I grew up, I remembered many of those stories, but they didn't really seem to have much to do with real life. They seemed, well, kid-like. And they weren't very helpful or relevant in the things that I began to deal with as a young adult. When I was 20 years old, I made a decision to follow Jesus myself. And I began to go back then and read the Bible, but this time as an adult. What I discovered was shocking. I had missed so much of the story. There was so much more there than I had ever thought before. I think a lot of people are like I was. Many of you might have heard some of the stories of the Bible as kids, but simplified, kid versions. And maybe like me, you've never gone back as an adult and read them through adult eyes. Today, I'm starting a new series of messages called The Bible for Grown-Ups. I want us to look at 4 stories in the Bible, but this time as adults. And I think God has something to teach us when we do. In this series, we're going to look at Zacchaeus, the wee little man who climbed a sycamore tree. We're going to look at Abraham, the man who believed God and who stepped into the unknown. We're going to look at Joseph, the man who did not let his circumstances stop him from having faith in God. Today, we're going to start with Jesus and what happened on the very first Easter Sunday morning. I want us to look at it in a fresh way today, together. Why does it matter? I mean, why are we still celebrating this 2,000 years later? Is it really that important? And does it have anything to do with your life and mine in 2021? Go ahead and power on or turn in your Bible to the book of Luke, chapter 24. This is a doctor named Luke and his biography of Jesus. And we're going to start in verse 1. While you're turning there, I want to set the stage for you. Jesus had been crucified. For those who followed him, it wasn't just the death of their leader, their rabbi, or their teacher. This was the death of their hope. That Friday night after the crucifixion and all day on Saturday, their Sabbath day, the grief just kept rolling. He was dead. And so were their dreams and their hopes and their expectations of what could be and what would be. No one was still hoping. No one was still dreaming. The dream was dead. And hope was extinguished. The body was in the tomb. Dr. Luke begins and tells us on the first day of the week, very early in the morning, that's on Sunday, the women took the spices that they had prepared and they went to the tomb. On that Sunday morning, nobody is standing outside the tomb waiting for the resurrection. Nobody's expecting that. Mary Magdalene and a group of women went to the tomb to finish the rush job that had been done on Friday night, preparing Jesus' body for burial after he died. They'd had to hurry because the Sabbath was coming. They had to just kind of do what they could and then say, all right, we're going to come back after the Sabbath and finish it up and do it right. And that's what they were coming back for. Preparing a body for burial was a long and laborious process. We read in John's biography of Jesus that he was buried quickly with 75 pounds of spices that Nicodemus, another one of Jesus' followers, brought for his burial. Typically, one would use about 5 pounds of spices. To use a quantity like this, that's only done for royalty. So these women are coming to finish, to fix the job that had been done in such a rush on that Friday night. They come and they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. When they get there, something's different. The stone is rolled away. And now typically in this day, tombs would be sealed with a rolling rock. It would move back and forth in front of the opening to the tomb. So you would roll the stone in front and then put a seal on it. This would prevent grave robbers and other bad actors from messing with the tomb. They didn't expect the stone to be moved out of the way, but there it is. What exactly did that mean? When they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. I can't imagine. I mean, they eased into the tomb. You have to know with some type of trepidation of what they're going to find. They slowly ease their way in, and when they look inside, they find that the body of Jesus is gone. What on earth? I mean, in that day, much like in ours, bodies don't just get up and walk out of tombs. the dead stay dead, something happened. Luke goes on, he says, while they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. Then these 2 guys appear, and they're dressed in clothes that are so bright, I can imagine they can barely look at them. Think about lightning and how bright that is. They can barely look at them. These are messengers from God. We call them angels. And when an angel shows up, something's happened. These messengers show up, and in their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, why do you look for the living among the dead? What kind of question is that, angel? The living? No, they saw Jesus die. They saw him die on Friday. They were there. They saw him taken down from the cross, dead. They saw him wrapped in linen with these spices, dead. The living? The angel continues, he is not here. He has risen. Remember how he told you, while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and on the 3rd day be raised again. Then they remembered his words. When the angel reminded the women of Jesus' words, they remembered. I mean, Jesus had said so many things, and so many of them were kind of hard to grab onto. But this, now the light began to dawn on them. They began to get it. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. The first witnesses to Jesus' resurrection, that he had risen, first ones to carry the good news, were a group of women. Now, there is no other reason to include this detail in this biography of Jesus unless this actually happened. The reason for that is in that day, in that time, women were not allowed to testify in a court because they were not considered to be trustworthy witnesses. And yet they're the ones. They're the ones that God chose to be first to see the empty tomb and first to carry the good news of Jesus' resurrection to other people. You know, people didn't think highly of women in that day. And for some of you watching this, some of you understand what that feels like because other people around you have not had a very high opinion of you. Some of you are stuck in what other people have said about you or to you. And you can't get past what she said. You can't get past what he said, what they told you, what they told other people about you. God could never use you, right? He only uses good people. He only uses perfect people, people that other people would believe, right? Take a look at this. Who did God choose to be the first witnesses? How did the apostles respond? I mean, how did Peter and the others respond to this? This is great news, right? They did not believe the women because their words seemed to them like nonsense. Tell me again who God will use. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away, wondering to himself what had happened. Something happened. Those words from the angel, he is not here, he has risen, have echoed through the ages. They have changed history, and they have transformed countless lives, including my own and many of yours. But let me ask you, What are the implications of that statement? Why does that matter? Why are we still celebrating that 2,000 years later? You know, it goes back to what Jesus said that he came here to do. In his biography of Jesus, the Apostle John in John 10 wrote these words of Jesus. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Jesus said, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Jesus came to bring life, and life to the full. That's what Jesus offered then. And that is what Jesus offers now. Again, the Apostle John writing these words of Jesus, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Not to condemn, but to save. Those are words of hope and love and promise. God offers life with him now and forever. Life with him, not apart from him. That love, that generosity, that is who God is. And as theologian A.W. Tozer once said, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. Is that love, that generosity that John is writing about, is that the picture of God that you have in your mind? Here's the truth. The truth is that the good news of Easter is not about what God wants from you. It's about what God wants for you. See, God raised Jesus from the dead. He defeated sin and death so that you and I could be reconciled to him, so that our relationship with him could be made right, so that we could come home. No matter what we've done, no matter where we've been, there is a way home. That is God's gift of love, of real, full life, now and forever. The women at the tomb on that Easter Sunday morning were witnesses to the greatest event in history. Despite how others might see him, despite how others might talk about them, despite not being believed by Peter and the other disciples at first, they were chosen by God on purpose for that moment. And now you and I have been chosen by God on purpose for this moment. My question for us is, what will we do in this moment? We live in a world that is divided like I have never seen in my lifetime, where anger and hatred that has been so pervasive online now seems to bleed over into real life just about everywhere we look, where us versus them seems to be the norm, where a nation that has faced a pandemic, faced justice issues, faced a bitter election season, and the overrunning of the Capitol building just 3 months ago. And you and I, were chosen by God on purpose for this moment. See, if we look through this account of Jesus' resurrection, here's what we learn. We learn that something happened. And we can go with the flow around us. We can follow the crowd, and we can be like those all around us and make no difference at all. Or we can be like those women, standing in front of Peter and the apostles and all the disciples. We can stand knowing what we know, We know what we've heard. He is risen. Just as he said, death is not the end. Jesus came to bring life to the full, and we can experience that life with God now and forever. The Apostle Paul put it like this to the first century Christians who were living in Rome. He said, but you are not controlled by your sinful nature. You are controlled by the Spirit if you have the Spirit of God living in you. And remember that those who do not have the Spirit of Christ living in them do not belong to him at all. And Christ lives within you. So even though your body will die because of sin, the Spirit gives you life because you have been made right with God. The Spirit of God, who raised Jesus from the dead, lives in you. And just as God raised Christ Jesus from the dead, he will give life to your mortal bodies by this same Spirit living within you. If you are a follower of Jesus, here is what you need to know. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives within you. So let me ask you, what's stopping you from being the salt and the light that this world so desperately needs right now? We live in this moment. We've been chosen by God on purpose for this moment, and he has given us the power of his Holy Spirit to be his light, to be his voice, his hands, his feet. In this moment, the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in every one of his followers. But that life begins with accepting the gift of life in Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. There is one way home. There is one way to that life, and that is through Jesus. Apostle Paul again wrote, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That is a promise. That was true in the first century when Paul wrote it, and it is just as true today. Here's what I know. You live in this moment. You are confronted with this choice in this moment. You were chosen by God for this moment. He loves you more than you can possibly imagine. And he wants you to accept his gift of life. You might be thinking, well, there's a lot of reasons why God couldn't possibly love me. I mean, God would never choose me because, and then you fill in the blank. He would never choose me because, that thing that I did. He would never choose me because, that thing that I said. He would never choose me because he knows everything about me. He would never choose me because I'm just not good enough. One of the women at the tomb that morning was a woman named Mary Magdalene. She was once possessed by 7 demons. And then she met Jesus. He healed her. He cast the demons out of her. And from that moment, she followed him. She was one of the first witnesses to the empty tomb, the resurrection. She was the one who went to the apostles that Easter Sunday morning and told them, he is alive, he is risen. And the early church would nickname her the apostle to the apostles. God chose a woman like that. Once possessed by 7 demons. Wow. That's the power of the Spirit of God. That's the power he has to change and transform a life, even a life like yours. Maybe since you were a kid, when you heard this story the first time, maybe, you thought about God as being, so far away, unreachable, unsympathetic, inaccessible. is always mad. It's just waiting for you to screw up so he could zap you. Jesus came to show us a different picture of God. God as a loving Father. God as one who will forgive. God as one who is as close as our next breath. God as one who can be trusted. God as one who chooses us. Here's what I know about you. He chose you to be in this moment right now because he loves you. His power to transform your life is not limited by if you think your life can be transformed. He offers you life, a life characterized by victory. On Good Friday, Jesus faced a painful, brutal death so that you and I could be forgiven. He took on my sin and your sin so that you and I could have the opportunity to live with God now and forever. He trusted God wholly with his life. And on that Easter Sunday morning, God raised Jesus from the dead. That Easter Sunday morning, Jesus declared his victory over sin and death, victory over hopelessness, victory over carrying around the weight of your own sin, your failure, your past. And that victory can be yours today, right now, in this moment. You can be set free. God has not changed his mind about you. He knows everything about you, every thought you have ever thought, every word you've ever spoken, every action you've ever done. Your mistakes cannot separate you from God's love. It begins with what Paul said. Confessing with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. And believing in your heart that God has raised him from the dead. And you will be saved. That's not me saying that. That's the Apostle Paul saying that. That's your Heavenly Father saying that. When you ask for forgiveness for where you have failed, he will forgive you. And his forgiveness will break the chains that are holding you back from the victory that he wants you to live in. Forgiveness sets you free. When you discover that forgiveness, when you find that freedom, when you discover the love that we are created to experience, that we are all craving and searching for, you discover that it's right there. It's on the cross. That it's right there, coming out of the empty tomb. It is resurrection love. A love that never ends. It's new life love. And within that, you find the power of victory. Looking at Easter as a grown-up, what's it about? Why does it matter? It's about new life. It's about victory. And there's no better time than Easter to accept God's gift of forgiveness, of grace, of new life, and of victory. I'm going to ask you to bow your heads. I want to pray for you. Heavenly Father, today we have looked as grown-ups at the story of what happened on that first Easter Sunday morning. And we face a choice. Will we accept what your word has said? Will we confess with our mouth Jesus is Lord? And will we believe in our heart that you have raised him from the dead? If we do, then your word tells us that we will be saved. We will experience new life. We will experience your love. We will experience victory. And Father, I pray for each person who is watching or listening to this, that they would choose you, that they would say yes to the gift that you offer and begin a journey with you, begin a relationship with you that will never end. That they will experience life with you the way we were created to experience. A communion that will never end. Father, I want that for each person. Everyone you have created. And I believe in this moment, there are people saying yes to you, and I'm praising you for that. We are celebrating with the angels in heaven. We love you, and we're so grateful for your love. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus together. Amen.
I am so excited about our new series, The Bible for Grown-Ups, and I would love for you to join us next weekend for week 2.
The Bible, yes, that's the book for me.
I stand alone on the Word of God, the Bible.
The Bible, yes, that's the book for me.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Our mission here at Southview is to see people far from God be raised to new life in Jesus Christ. And throughout the past year of doing church online, we have seen 22 people say yes to Jesus all over the world, and we even saw a baptism 2 weeks ago. That is something worth celebrating. All of this is possible because of your faithful financial support. If you'd like to partner with us in giving, you can do that by downloading the Southview app, or you can visit southview.org/giving. It's now time to jump into the music, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Jesus Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Let's celebrate. The evil one has been defeated. Death has lost its sting. Eternal life has won the battle. Let's all stand and join our voices together in celebration that Christ is risen from the dead. Let no one caught in sin remain inside the light of inward shame. We fix our eyes upon the cross and run to Him who showed great love and bled for us. Freely you bled for us. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Beneath the weight of all our sin, you bowed to none but heaven's will. No scheme of hell, no scoffer's crown, no burden great can hold you down. In strength you reign forever, let your church proclaim. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come away. Christ is risen from the dead. We are one with him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, hell, where is your victory? Oh, church, come stand in the light. The glory of God has defeated the night. We're singing, oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, hell, where is your victory? Oh, church, come stand in the light. Our God is not dead, he's alive, he's alive. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with him again. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen indeed.
That's it for now. I'll see you next weekend right here for Church Online, Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. And as always, for more information about our church or for information on upcoming events, head on over to southview.org/Sunday. Have a wonderful Easter.